Okay, part of me does acknowledge just how funny it is that it took me this long to look at a core class figure, because I've had Studio Series. Why am I blanking all of a sudden? Freezer. Studio Series Freezer in hand for a while, like since 2023. And I don't think it was that late in 2023 either. So I've had this guy for a while. Never made a video on him. Pretty much because I just got him as a glorified accessory for Scourge. But I figure now is the time to take a look at him, because I am I am quite literally scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of figures to cover. And I do not mean scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of like quality of the figures. I mean, I'm just running out of stuff to make videos on, because at this point I've made a video on almost every single figure I own. All that's left are a handful of black prime repaints that are intentionally being held off until closer to the end of the year. If you know, you know. And some combiners, which are a real pain in the butt to do. So, yeah, I'm kind of running out of material until I get more new stuff. So, we are looking at Freezer. And Freezer is, for what it is, it's a neat figure. It's just definitely got some compromises. So this is the turret mode, the stationary turret mode, and it works. I did go in and tighten up all these ball joints using the floor polish method, which I'm going to try to remember to link up there. But yeah, that makes him a lot more stable. You can see he stands just fine. I can pick him up, put him down. He's not like sagging or anything like that. But it was some work that had to be done ahead of time. Now, this is the stationary turret mode. It is a little bit odd looking, but it works for what it is. And yeah, this is mostly more of like an accessory for Scourge, but it's fine. The paint, which I think we'll talk about more in robot mode, because pretty much all of the stuff that's here you see in robot mode, but like the paint job is pretty nice. Lots of nice molding. There's not a whole lot of color variation. I mean, there's a lot of color breakup, because it goes from this like gray with coppery dry brushing to darker gray back to gray with coppery dry brushing. So it alternates really nicely. But in terms of like overall color scheme, aside from this orange up at the top here, you're not really getting a lot in terms of like random color pops. But yeah, the turret mode it's a tiny little stationary gun turret. Not tiny, but it is small, because it's a core class figure. And I need to adjust this light. Let me bring it back a tad so it's not quite as intense. There we go, that's less intense. Okay. Anyway, yeah, he is kind of a small gun in placement, because there's Burnout. Let's bring in Dinobot, and killed Ova Prime, and Ova Prime, and Samus, and again Burnout. So there, all the standard size comparisons are, and you got core class. So yeah, he looks a little bit bigger because he's kind of up on his arms, but not a big not a big figure, because core class, which stands to reason. And yeah, and Duck Tank. So I guess real quick before we do the simple transformation, if you like this video, any other videos on the channel, blah 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 blah, I do have a Patreon or a Ko-fi, links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Otherwise, you could always like, comment, share, subscribe. Anything is appreciated. Now, to transform Freezer from his turret mode to his handgun mode, you want to just untab these obvious arms from themselves. There's a little tab here that plugs into the little opening for the ball joints at the back of the elbow, and that's how that locks together. And it is actually pretty snug on mine, so that's nice. But yeah, you unplug that. Then with that unplugged, you want to take this piece here, rotate it around 180 degrees on both sides because you want this obvious tab facing in. Then you bring this up and tab the obvious tab into the obvious slots in the side of the obvious leg. And that will lock all that together. Bring this side up as well. Whoop. Bring this side up as well. I tightened the joints and yeah. Also, I'm just now noticing there is a crack. It's just straight up cracked in that socket there. Huh. That's interesting because this guy has. I don't really touch this guy. He's just been kind of left in his gun mode. That is wild. All right, well, whatever. He's a glorified accessory, so it is what it is. Anyway, just tap this into the leg. Wonder if it has to do with the way that all of this lines up. Like maybe this is putting stress on the joints or something, I don't know. It's a little disappointing, but Anyway, now, this is actually the gun mode for the back of Scourge's truck mode. And it just goes on the back as you do. Like it tabs on there. These little, I think it's either these, pretty sure it's these tabs here where they tab into the side somewhere, and that just kind of holds this in place on the back of the truck. I can't show you that because Scourge is not in truck mode, but I think he actually goes over Scourge's gun here. So let's see if maybe this can be used to illustrate the point. So I think it tabs into one of these. Like basically the tab on the arm tabs into the inside of the cannon, and the cannon itself is what's pegged onto the back of the truck. And so you have, just imagine Scourge's truck mode in here somewhere. That's how that works. Yep. Okay, we're. I am making a mess of things. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that's this. It's just the same as the turret. So we're just gonna move on to the gun mode, and the gun mode is just this, except what you do now is you rotate these around 180 degrees, and there are these little tabs here that tab into these little slots here, and those just tab in like that. And then on the underside, there is this little thing you can get a nail into, flip up a little peg, and that gives you the gun mode. And it's, for what it is, it's a decently effective target mastery gun mode thing. Yeah, it's 5mm, so bring in burnout here. You can plug freezer into the top of the vehicle. But of course, the real thing is it's an accessory for Scourge, so we got to bring in Scourge. And surprise, this is actually a stealth video about the DNA upgrade kits for Studio Series Scourge. Freezer was just a cover the whole time. Ah, ha, ha. Yeah, that maniacal laugh was terrible. Point is, we're talking about Freezer, but this is why I actually wanted to make this video, because I wanted to talk about the DNA upgrade kits. But first, to show that the gun function, etc., it works with either of these hands, but it also works with Scourge's original hand, where you just open up the fingers, peg that in, close the finger. You don't even have to open the fingers, really, but Freezer pegs into the hand, and Scourge can make him go bang bang. But now that he has the DNA upgrades, you can also use him with the DNA upgrade hands, which, in case anyone was curious about that, because the DNA hands are different. They're individually articulated fingers and a thumb that goes up and down. but there is a little bit of a 5mm peg hole in there. So same deal, you just peg Freezer into the peg hole, and now Scourge has Freezer as a gun, and that is how I have had all of this set up for a while now. It's just Freezer pegged in as gun, and that's how that works. So the DNA upgrade kits for Scourge. I sure do have mixed feelings about them, but actually, before we do that, we should talk about Freezer's robot mode, because he does have one. So real quick, to transform Freezer into his robot mode, going to fold that peg in, pop out these arms, just leave them out to the side, untab these arms from the thighs, rotate the elbows around 180 degrees, and now the legs do actually extend. There are these extra joints here where this bit kind of tabs in here for the gun mode. So you just bring that down, bring down the feet, and there is the kind of basic, or the body in its entirety. Then you can push this down, rotate this down, push the barrel up in here, fold this flap down, and then this whole thing goes along the back. And there's actually a double joint in the neck here. Zoom in a little bit. Double joint in the neck where there's the ball joint at the head, but then there's also a joint down here. And what I think works best is to hinge that extra joint forward to give him more of like a monstrous hunch. And there is Freezer's monster mode, I guess. Like, I don't know if I'd call it a robot mode per se, but yeah, as a little gremlin guy, he's actually kind of neat. I like the forearms and the kind of backwards legs, the hunched head. The detailing is nice. There's a lot of nice molding. I really do like the light gray with this kind of coppery dry brush that they used. And again, like the mix of colors, like there's not a lot of color variety, but it breaks it up really nicely because you've got it in the feet. Then it's like copper in the leg or feet, then dark gray for the legs, copper in the arms, but then dark gray for the biceps, copper in the torso, copper in the head. So it's broken up pretty nicely. He's got an interesting and monstrous silhouette, which I appreciate. The head looks actually really nice. I mean, it's gruesome, but it looks really nice. It's really nicely detailed. Those orange eyes are actually really nice and creepy. Like the silver teeth, too. The shape is weird. I don't know, it works, especially for something called a Terracon, which I know Scourge is also a Terracon, but I think you all get what I mean. And for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so he can look up and down, rotate left and right, but then because of there's just enough clearance on the ball joint, you can actually get him to look left and right too, which is really nice. And I think, you can't look all the way around, but with everything going on here, I feel like that's about as much as you're going to get anyway. Though you could raise this up if you want and have him kind of look around this way, but I just like the hunch. And then everything else is ball joints, so ball joint at this shoulder can go in and out, rotate. Ball joint at the elbow can rotate, bend just past 90. Ball joint in this arm, same deal. And of course, you're going to be restricted by the stuff going on up here. So this arm is not going to be able to do like a full 360 unless you come out. And even then, it's not working. It's whacking into the torso, so oh well. And same deal with the elbow here, slightly more than 90 bend, rotation, ball joint, etc. No waist, ball jointed hips, which that kind of works as a thigh swivel. It's pretty expressive actually. You can go in and out, forward and backward. The knees can straighten out to there or collapse all the way into there, like for the transformation, but then this also works as like a pseudo thigh swivel. And then the feet are also on ball joints, so you can go up and down, you can rotate, and you also get just a tiny bit of tilt. So yeah, Freezer is pretty expressive in terms of his robot mode. And he looks neat. I like him as a little gremlin dude. But I use him primarily as a as a target master. Now for Harrison. He is a core class figure, so he is short. Also, he's got the hunch, so the hunch is a factor. But there he is with Dinobot, Overprime, and Samus. And get all of them out of the way. There is Burnout. Again, core class, so of course smaller. And here he is with the Duck Tank. Now, before we get on to the actual meat and potatoes of this video, let's just do the blast effect test. And I don't have much faith in this working because, yeah, no, the blast effects do not work with Freezer's gun mode. That peg is way too small. That opening is way too small. That peg is too small. So yeah, you cannot use blast effects with Studio Series Freezer. That is really kind of a bummer. I don't really know why they did that. Anyway, let's bring this galactic jerk back into the frame. And yeah, okay. So the DNA upgrade kits for Studio Series Scourge. I am of the opinion that this looks fantastic. I really appreciate the fact that the like all the upgrade parts can stay on for the transformation. It's better than some DNA kits I've had or seen in the past, like the DNA kit for Legacy Menasor. I still despise the fact that the upgrade kit chest plate has to be removed for transformation. To the point where it just stays in the box. I never use it because if I want to transform it, I'm going to have to take it off and put the chest piece, the original chest piece, back on. So like, why bother? But this kit, better in that regard. Definitely has its problems. There were two different kits, actually. The first kit gives you the armor pieces on the legs, the new arm here, the new head, and these side kind of midriff filler pieces. And that was nice. But you still had the original Scourge shoulders. And you also had the claw hand, which we will look at more in a little bit. But yeah, and that was cool, but I really, really liked the idea of having a film accurate Scourge that had like the actual shoulders and stuff too. And unfortunately, DNA decided, why not make a little bit more money, and instead of releasing all of the Scourge upgrades as one kit, they released the one kit, and then they released a second kit that was just the shoulders and the other like hand arm. And that kit, like that other kit, came with parts for Studio Series Nightbird and Battletrap, but I don't have Nightbird and I don't want Battletrap, so I was kind of annoyed by that, because it's like I'm basically just buying a bunch of parts that I either can't use currently or will never use. I did end up reselling the Battletrap upgrade pieces for not much, but it recouped some of that cost of the kit. But it's just like, yeah, that didn't sit great with me. But aside from the breakup of the parts, this kit definitely looks great to me. I think it looks fantastic. I do have it transformed slightly differently than the instructions tell you to do it. You can see there are these little panels back here. These little like truck bumper pieces. Those are in place of the what were originally the shoulders. What they want you to do is rotate them so that they're up inside of the backpack mass. I don't like to do that because the way that this sits, it's kind of like awkwardly pushing on things on these pieces when they're up in that position, so I find it's easier to just rotate them down like this. It's slightly less clean, but it does not get in the way of the waist rotation at all. It doesn't like impede anything. It just avoids putting stress on any of these pieces, which I appreciate. Like, you can't even really see them from the front, so it's fine. The pieces that DNA adds are definitely not color matched, which doesn't bother me because it's kind of like a similar thing to what was happening with Freezer, where, yeah, you've got this lighter gray that absolutely does not match anything else with the original figure bits, the much darker gray. But when you have the full set, there's so much of it, it looks intentional. It doesn't look like it's mismatched. It just looks like that's the color scheme that they went with. But getting back to some of those issues, a lot of these pieces don't like to stay in. Some of the thigh parts would pop out. These shin pieces are just simply tabbed on right here. And then this freaking butt plate, this thing falling off so much. I was getting so mad at Scourge's butt, literally, when I was trying to install the second upgrade kit, because it just kept falling off. And then you can also see that this little filler here, it keeps wanting to swing forward. And that also stinks. I've tightened, like I used the floor polish trick to try and tighten the little slider that this is attached to, and it just doesn't do much. It keeps wanting to move forward. And it will stay, but it's also really easy to bump it out of place, and that bugs the crap out of me. I do think that this looks nice, but I'm kind of like, I don't know if it was worth the trade-off, because it just kind of gets in the way. The new fingered hands are nice, or hands are nice. Both of them are pretty much the same, where you've got wrist rotation, you've got the individual digits that are stuck in like a kind of claw shape, but I feel like you can make it work. Or I can make it work. But yeah, you got the wrist swivel. This piece, as before, can slide off, and you can plug in the gun piece that comes with Studio Series Scourge, as you do, or there is the claw piece that came with the other upgrade kit. Personally, I don't plan to use this. It's just going to stay in the box, but the claw looks nice. It's that lighter gray. As you see, you've got the orange kind of brushed on the inside. It's got way more articulation than the default hand, because now you've got this extra bit here, so he can do more, be more expressive with that claw. There is this terrible thing, which can just be stored inside the claw. If you've seen the movie, you know why I don't like that, but you could do that. Also, there are these little clips on the sides of the arm here. It's easiest to get them out by just opening these claws and then pinching them closed again. So with those out of the way, that gives the claw hand wrist rotation, which is cool. Problem being, if you pull this back too much, it's going to start like knocking into stuff. So you can't really open these claw fingers too much. Otherwise, you won't get the full rotation. But I appreciate that that's an option. And again, you can just use this to lock the quote-unquote wrist in place. There we go. As you can see, those little bits are kind of easy to nudge out of place. But yeah, that is the claw compared to the original claw. I prefer this to the original claw, which is just this, and could only do this. So not as expressive, not as fancy looking, doesn't have the wrist rotation or anything like that. But really, when it comes to how I want to have Scourge displayed, I'm just gonna keep this arm on there. And then for this arm, you now have the wrist blade our forearm mounted blade thingy. And the kit that I got, at least, came with 2 of them. The one that was kind of by default in the box was very loose and didn't like to stay in place. But then there was this one, the secondary one, that does actually stay in place much better. It's still a little wiggly, but it's not falling out. And to remove it, it's just a little, it's like a T-tab that slides into this little channel back here. So you just slide this back, and then you can pop this out of the forearm, and that gets rid of that, so you don't have to worry about the blade being attached to his forearm the entire time. If you want, he can also hold it, where you just put this in his hand and close his fingers around it, and he can just hold it. I think it looks cooler as it's I think it looks cooler mounted on his forearm, but you know, it's an option. Just slide that back in place. And then as per the original design, the original Studio Series design, there is a hinge there, so if you want, you can fold this back and tab it into itself and kind of fold it up and out of the way. So you do have options in that regard as well. But in terms of everything else, you don't really get any new articulation or anything like that. Now, also the new head, we got to talk about that. The neck stump is also new, and that was popping off constantly. So that's kind of annoying too. But we've got the new head, new shoulders, which I do like the new shoulders. They make the transformation a little bit fiddly, but it's manageable. But the new head with the mask on, I think it looks good. It does look pretty good. You got the same, or more or less same level of expressiveness as you did with the original. You get some side to side, get some up and down, mostly down, and rotation. It doesn't seem to want to. Oh crap! Doesn't seem to want to go all the way around, and now this is happening, which means that yep, that's going to pop off, of course. But there is that, and you can move the face mask, and you're left with this. And I mean, Scourge was definitely, his face was messed up in the original movie, but this just seems kind of mushy. Like, it's okay. It's, in my mind, having the option to remove the mask makes it an automatic improvement over the original figure, but I'm just gonna keep that on there, and I think that does look better. So I dig the original mask out of there. Like, that's not bad, but this mask is a little bit more pronounced, and you also don't have this big cowl thing that was in the original. But yeah, so the problem with all of this, aside from just the kind of particulars, is, again, the fact that, like, a lot of this stuff was falling out. As you can see, this just, I glued this. I need to try re-gluing it because clearly the glue did not stick well enough. But that's what I ended up doing with all of these pieces. I applied glue to the thigh plates, to the shin plates, to the butt, and to the pieces back here. And I might need to reapply some, like a few of them. But I was just so fed up with parts popping off all the time that I was just like, I don't care. I'm not planning on ever selling this Scourge because this is what I want from Studio Series Scourge, so I'm just going to glue the parts on. Clearly, I did not use enough glue, but it's, yeah, I do appreciate the fact that you can transform him without having to remove any of the parts. Except for this. This has to come off for transformation. But I really don't understand why DNA had such a hard time with the fit on this set. It's something with another kit that we're going to be looking at next time that I'm probably going to rant about for a little bit too, but yeah. Anyway, with all that done, let's transform this thing. So we're going to pop this off, and this can just go off to the side. And now, this is where things get a little tricky because because of the shoulders, it does kind of complicate the transformation a little bit. And also, there are certain particulars with how you have to arrange the arms that I'm not entirely sure I remember properly, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, you want to do the typical thing of rotate the thighs around 180 degrees, and they will come back down and peg into each other, but first, going to pull out these wheels, which is a little bit unfun, but that's just how the original figure was designed. It's not the kit's fault. These feet go back, fold in like that, and then swing around and tab in to this piece here. I mean, really, it's the same transformation as the base figure. Just flip out the peg on this particular foot. Only difference with this armor piece in place is you want to take this piece and just fold it down. And that is the only difference in terms of the leg transformation. And oh good, I just accidentally leveraged the butt plate out of place too. Cool. Can you tell I'm annoyed? Alright, gonna pop out the wheel again, fold that back, fold that in, fold that around, and peg that into place, fold that down, bring this in, peg it in there, and peg the feet together. At least the butt plate hasn't actually fallen off, and the thigh pieces have not fallen off. That's a small miracle. Also going to straighten out the legs. So there is the lower body. I'm going to unpeg the backpack, and you can also kind of see that the backpack now, what you want to do is you want to fold these pieces back rather than having them straight out, which I think just looks better in general. But I'm going to bring that out, fold this down, unfurl this, just like the original, the unmodified version of the figure, I should say, not original. Okay, so the torso. It's going to be a miracle if that head stays on when I do this. The torso is much more complicated. You want to untab the arms, which that in itself is not new. You want to untab them, get them out of the way. You want to slide these little side pieces out as far as they'll go, and untab the torso from up here and kind of bring it down. And then what I tend to do is it recommends pulling this whole piece off. I don't like doing that, so instead I just kind of take advantage of the fact that this is rubbery plastic and flex this piece up and around and past this. And that head is already almost coming off. So with that done, now this can swing down a bit more. I'm going to bring out the little flaps for the fender and flip this up into place. Bring this around. And this can also, for now, just kind of stay up like that. And you can kind of see this new design here allows for this to slide in and out on both sides. Now, going to get these arms. Okay, definitely got to get these arms out of the way. So let's see. Sorry if this is a mess, but I don't transform it with the kit on very often, or haven't done it very often. So the shoulder pads, they slide forward, and you kind of want to. Now, this is another thing that's like, why did they even do this? You want to slide this up, and it's such a, or not this, it's this piece here You can kind of see it slides forward a bit. And I don't really know why they had to do that, but it is what it is. So that slid up. I'm going to straighten out the arm. Whoop. Oh, it just came off the mushroom peg. We're okay. It didn't break. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to close that up. And I do not remember what orientation this needs to go in. But this will kind of fold back a little bit. And that will give us enough room to fold this wheel around. This can come around. And with that coming around, we want to slide this in. And that will give us the clearance to bring this wheel the rest of the way around. I've got to make sure that arm is completely out of the way. So bring this up. And this can just stay in there. And then for the arm, I think I want to rotate it so that the elbow is facing in. I think. I should have done my my due diligence before doing this. This is all on me. So I'm going to believe this goes, yeah, okay. So what we actually do is we fold this up and bring the shoulder pad in like that. The bicep section kind of folds in on itself, and then this slides down. So this is actually going to sit like this. And this, I believe, needs to go... trying to remember the orientation. Think that way, because it's just a little bit flatter. And that, there we go. That is how that goes. Now, this flap here, which is pegged into the side here now, this can rotate around 180 degrees. And it should just kind of go over that shoulder. So that's one side. Oh, this is such a mess. Okay. So it's one side down. Other side is very similar, except we're also wrestling with this piece. So I'm going to try and bring this down a bit further now so that we can do this shoulder right. Going to bring it up. And then also close off the hand. So bring it up. And what angle? I think like that. And fold this down. Bring this up. Want to slide this piece again. I don't understand why they put this on a slider. There goes the head again. Want to slide this up for reasons. This also will slide in so that this can go around, but I'll slide this up, bring it around, bring this down and into place. And slide that shoulder pad back down. And then this will tuck in as you do. A little bit smoother now that I remembered how it's supposed to go. And let's put this back on. And now this can come up. This piece will fold in, around. This piece folds around. Again, this is unchanged from the original figure. This comes up, this rotates around, and all of this, and all of this comes around and settles into place. And the neck came off again. Yeah, I think this probably illustrates the point of why these pieces not fitting right has been the bane of my existence. So yeah, with all of this done, now we can get this in place, if I can remember how that goes. Okay, there was no audible swearing off camera, but there was a lot going on in my head. So I did have the arms oriented properly. It was the backpack I was doing wrong. But anyway, get the bang accordion down, this comes in, and then the engine pieces peg in, as is expected of Studio Series Scourge. This comes up and tabs in there, though it doesn't hold as well as it should. The tabs on these new pieces just aren't a great fit for the grill piece. And also, you can see this nonsense. These pieces, these little torso filler pieces, do not like to stay in place. And so with all that done, now these flaps can come down, can swing out pipes. These come down. Pardon, these come down and tab in as you do. Just tab into the side here. Okay, I think I got something horribly misaligned because this is not going together the way it's supposed to. But I honestly do not care. I just want this to be over with. I mean, some of this is on me. Some of this is me just not... Oh, there we go. Some of this is me just not taking the time to re-familiarize myself with this transformation now with the upgrade kits installed. But out again. But this is still... I think it's safe to say this is like... I don't want to say unacceptable from DNA design, but it's definitely disappointing. Like, this is the company that used to be synonymous with, you know, upgrade kits. And now look at this thing. And again, like, I'm sure part of this is me just not getting the arm orientation correct. But, like, this wants to fall down. These aren't pegging in quite right. This definitely doesn't peg in right. And there we go. There's Scourge's truck mode. It's rickety and not really holding together well, which again is mostly my fault for the arm orientation. But like, the amount of extra work it takes to get all of this in place is kind of ridiculous. And it really bugs me how bad the fit is on some of this stuff. Like, it just needed to be a little bit tighter. The connection points needed to be a little bit stronger. And we did not get that. Which really sucks, especially when you consider how expensive these kits are when you get them both together. It is a bummer. And as a bonus, you're left with all of these parts that are just replaced outright, and you got nothing else to do with them. So like, there's the arm, the original blade, the shoulder pieces, like the entire shoulder assemblies, the head and neck, the torso piece here. I really kind of wish that I hadn't bothered with the little side filler pieces there, because it would make the transformation a little bit more pleasant not having to deal with them. And this just replaced the upper torso part. Is just the claw, this at least comes off really easily, so that was fine, but that's just left off to the side. And then you also have the shoulder joints here, which is where these little slidey bits come in. And I really do not understand why it was necessary to do the shoulder sliders. And like, one of these things is crooked and I don't understand why, because I followed the instructions exactly to get it in place. Because there's like a certain way you have to put this piece on to make sure it lines up. And I did that, but it's still crooked. I don't know. So yeah, also look at what's happening with the smokestacks. Scourge's italics. So aesthetically, I really like these kits, and I like the fact that you can transform Scourge without having to parts form anything. Mechanically, I'm kind of annoyed by it. Again, some of that is me just forgetting how it goes and stumbling through it, but I just feel like DNA could have come up with something much better. With just a little bit more time, maybe get the, again, get like the fit and finish down. But that didn't happen, and what we're left with is kind of meh. And I've already spent some time like gluing parts down and stuff. I'm gonna have to spend more time making sure like certain things are re-glued. I'm gonna have to adjust like some of the tolerances more with like floor polish and stuff. It's annoying. It's annoying, and I really expected better from DNA Design. And I guess maybe I shouldn't have, because their stuff lately, with a couple of exceptions, has been kind of on the downswing. I saw some people on TFW say that it might be because they're basically the game in town when it comes to upgrade kits for this kind of stuff. Like, there are other companies that make them, but like DNA is the one that's been around. They're the one that's kind of synonymous with it, and I understand that mentality. And it's entirely possible that DNA just feels like, yeah, we can do whatever we want, kind of like Fans Toys. But I don't know. I'm not inside there. I don't know what they're talking, like what goes through their minds when they do this stuff. But this kind of like, this could have been better, and it should have been better for the price. I still don't regret getting it. I just wish that it either was cheaper or more than anything, I wish it was handled better. But anyway, that's enough of that. That has been my look at the DNA upgrade kits for Scourge and also Freezer. Remember when we were talking about Freezer? What do you all think of this guy or this stuff? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I've got one more DNA kit I want to take a look at next time. And that one turned out a bit better.